Hello and welcome to Star Citizen Sunday. This is a weekly show which covers all the news of Star Citizen from the week just past. I am your host Mac, so let's get on with it. This week we learn more about insurance, derelict ships and cargo interactions. So don't forget, throughout the month of July, we are giving away a Star Citizen starter package courtesy of my wonderful patrons. All you need to do is be a subscriber to me here on YouTube and comment in any video that I put out throughout July to stand a chance. So kicking off as usual with the Around the Verse, coming from the LA studio this time, they say they've finished a large refactor of the persistent data manager. This changes the way that data is stored, modified and accessed while playing the game, allowing them to distinguish between physical and legal ownership. The distinction is to support many systems like the criminality system, the mission system, and persistent spawning. It's used to track and manage parking as well, so when you park your Nox in the back of the Cutlass, as we see here, it will allow you to recall the ship with the Cutlass still inside. They say they're hard at work on the cargo to shopping experience, whether you've obtained it via a mission, exploring a derelict, or just outgunned a hauler. They want it to feel seamless. They're also working on the cargo placement and cargo debris generation on an explosion. So once your ship has cargo, it will generate a percentage of cargo in your ship, that sort of space that's taken up. And when it comes to selling your cargo, they have integrated a new complete shopping code with the Solar System shopping service, which allows for shop inventories to populate dynamically. Basically, items and commodities stocked will be influenced by the purchases and sales of other players. They're also putting the finishing touches on the Gravlev system needed for ground vehicles, specifically for the changes to gravity, the IFCS system, planets and physics zones, all those sort of things. They sort of left the vehicles dragging a little bit, so this contains that. Anyway, in tech content, Miles Eckhart, as you have probably noticed, is always holding a glass. They have set up a runtime animation for liquids within the glass, which not only react to his movements, but the gravity of the planets too. And he says this is useful for other liquid situations in the verse, like oceans and so forth. Landing gear tech is now introduced to many ships. We saw the Cutlass and the Aurora. This is so that the ships will land softly rather than the current slamming down on the landing pad. But this will change as well dynamically depending on the ship's mass and the gravity of the planet, so it will react naturally and take those into consideration. They're also improving several tools to help be more efficient, including the Lumberyard Exporter, which improves the workflow. So in QA, they say that all the ships are now converted to Item 2.0, and they are testing them along with the new 3.0 features like the Quantum Travel System, the new planet missions, and the Moby-Glass functionality. We saw the Hurricane. This is now in the white box stage of the pipeline. It's completed the exterior and interior lighting, the proxy animations, and the temp interactive cockpit control layout. The enter and exit and seated templates for the turret and pilot are now set up too, and during this phase they make sure that all the animations are functioning as they should do. For the character team, they say they've moved the bridge officer uniforms from concept into high poly. The new Shuban combat pilot and outlaw combat suit are going through high poly, moving into in-game modelling and texturing soon. The medical corpsman has gone through high poly and now is in in-game modelling to get them working, and the Levski civilian costumes are ready to go out to the population of Levski, which do look quite nice. And also for customization, they're exploring tattoos. They've got some sleeves. We saw a new shipjacker concept. This looks very cool. And they've also made solid progress on the battle damage version of costumes for NPCs to help us understand how or why they passed away. Finally, they are establishing the look of the new Moby-Glass, the Moby-Glass 2, which looks like it could be a real item. Very cool. But they need it to fit on all clothing, undersuits and armour, as it will be worn by everyone. Anyway, from here we had their sort of main section of ATV, and it was talking about derelict ships. Now, from the derelict ship that we saw at Gamescom, which was the Starfarer, they have used this and added more to the system to create planet-side versions as well. The scope of derelicts have grown so much in terms of varied aesthetics and gameplay involved. Some will be inhabited by bandits, some by creatures. Some of them may have been set up as decoys or ambushes too. Planets need to be populated to some degree, and derelicts are just one of these great ways to do this. We will come across several different scenarios of derelicts. They wanted to add character to the derelicts, so how it crashed, how long it's been there, what happened to it since, while it's been there, and representing this via the details when you explore them. Also, the dirt and wear will greatly change based on its location. So if you're in a desert, you'll see it building up with sand, and if you're on an ice planet, you'll see it covered with snow, and then in a swamp, it'll be covered with plant life and so forth. They had to be clever with the shader setup. They wanted to distribute these with as little human interaction as possible, but without repetitiveness. So it's kind of a balance there as well. Each ship will have a set of varying derelict setups. They wanted to give players a destination on the planet with some interest. And this is the same for in space as well. They want to have these derelicts and make them feel a part of history and learning about them. The location will be varied too. Some of them will be maybe hanging off a cliff or in a valley or in a swamp. They want it to be memorable as you sort of think back to when you first discovered something. It would play on your mind. But what's cool about it, they say, is that they have to find locations. So like a location scout for a film, they're scanning the moons, looking for interesting geographical locations of where they could place these. They did say with the day and night cycle that the locations can seem completely different from one time of day to the next. But they need to be logical with it. So at night, if there's a ship with some lighting inside and it's been habited, then maybe they have campfires, or if they've got lighting, like I say, inside the ship, they want to make sure that they have a reason for it to be lit. So windmills creating power or solar panels will appear as well. They said it will just be great when you happen across a site and then you explore it and see what happens. There could be signs and clues of many different factions from the verse having taken refuge there over the years, and you can sort of clue together the history of this derelict, of who stayed there. They wanted to add a bit of movement as well, so windmills will move, cloth obviously flaps around in the wind. It's not just going to be a static looking dull site. They did say that about 80% will be simple derelicts. The other 20% will be home to the people, smugglers, dens, outposts, all with different archetypes. They mentioned that the Starfarer itself as a ship is kind of an FPS level in its own right. So having that as a derelict on the planet side, if two lots of players, as I've mentioned before, were to go head to head, then parts of the ship, like the turret, for example, if it's still working, will become an objective for the teams to take. So it is kind of creating an FPS level in itself. Anyway, after this deep dive, we've got a nice cinematic of a little role that we can play in the game as sort of like as reclaimers, as salvagers. Really, really cool stuff. I have actually just started a little chat on my Discord. I'll put the link below, talking about locating and cataloguing all of the derelicts around the moons for public use. So do go to that link in the Discord chat if you want to join in and help us out. We'll try and find a way of getting a website together and putting it all up there. Anyway, that was ATV, guys. Let me know your thoughts. Pretty exciting. So this week's Star Citizen Happy Hour was quite interesting. They started off by talking about the planetside map, and this will be available on your Mobiglass via the star map. So from the star map, you can then just zoom in onto the planet and it becomes the planetside map too. So there's just one single map system. Also, the map only shows what is shown and what's been found. So if something hasn't been discovered, you won't see it on the map until you discover it or someone else discovers it. So exploration will not be hindered. Now, there was a big section about 3.0 insurance. If you lose your ship, you will want to get it back. And when you lose your ship, you'll have to pay a premium. So basically at a much lesser rate than what it would cost to buy it brand new. But this will then come back to the space station at which you made the claim from. Now, if you can't afford the premium, then the price will decay over time, sort of like a cooldown, and eventually become free, at which a longer time will have passed. Now, for 3.0, they said that the premium will come down around 1,000 GBC per hour, but your premium will go up every time you claim. So if you get your ship destroyed a lot, then it will cost you way more each time you want to pay that premium. And it's kind of like a multiplier. So if it's the 5th time you've crashed your ship and wanted to claim a new one, there'll be a 5 times multiplier, for example, on that. Now, these are all obviously speculative. They're not 100% sorted yet. But after 24 hours, though, it will get wiped, and you'll have. So if you've had a bad day, losing all your ships, just leave it, relax, and then after the day has passed, you will be able to regain your ships again. Now, they want to make sure that people don't just damage the ship. They want to make sure they look after them. So it's all about balancing, making sure it works correctly. Every ship has insurance, whether it's LTI or 3 months insurance, or so somewhere in between. For 3.0, it will be a starting point for the insurance so that they can change it and get it balanced. Now, the future of insurance, they're thinking that it will cover the default ship items, so weapons, components, and cargo. Anything you buy after, like as extra bits, won't be included. They will also have policies as well, so a high-risk policy for people like bounty hunters who get into a lot of battles, whereas traders will have a more tailored policy for them as they try to avoid fights as much as possible. They want these policies to reward each role and suit them, Content insurance as well will exist in some degree, like for cargo. So if you're, if you're a cargo hauler and it gets taken, then you'll be covered for that. As I said, they're only exploring this. They will try them out. They'll come up with an idea, put it into the game, and then we will test it and give it feedback. Things like racing, they want to have insurance for racing. So if you're pushing vehicles, maybe not into battle, but pushing inexpensive components and then pushing them to the edge of their performance-wise, you may risk, say, blowing an engine, so they need a policy to specialise in that as well. Insurance will never break your bank. It will actually save you money in the end. They don't want you to lose everything just after upgrading or buying a new ship. Plus, they want to instill a level of responsibility for the owner's ship as a way of stopping griefing as well to a point. Ship insurance will have a base level, but then there will be other quality level insurance as well that you can have, and maybe even fleet policies. So if they don't want everyone to just be thinking about policies and thinking, oh my god, this is a pain in the ass. So they want to make it quite straightforward and just dealt with. For pirates, they will have something like a pirate syndicate or something along those lines where you will be able to, they'll take care of the policies for pirates or people outside of the law. Now, moving on, ships with external storage, like the Aurora, will be okay in 3.0, but there is still currently an issue to get them working, which they are working on now. There is no player trading in 3.0. You can give players things, but you'll have to go to a market if you want to buy and sell things. The Grim Hex Racetrack is being looked into for 3.0, but they're unsure about this. Same goes for surface racing. It's being looked at now. It won't likely be in for 3.0 at all, but they're looking at straightforward methods like waypoint racing. The moons are big enough, so there is plenty enough of space and options to use. They just want to find interesting locations if they're going to do that soon. Now, in terms of missions for 3.0, we've heard some in the latest video I did with the GameStar interview. They will, for 3.0 initially, for the first iteration, just be kind of going from A to B to C to D, etc. So, you go and collect some cargo. But to come, they say that if you collect some cargo which is based on maybe a cargo type, so for example, if it's hydroponics that you're collecting, then this will deliver the hydroponics. It will sort of spawn some cargo units in an outpost that deals with hydroponics at random for you to go and then pick it up. So you'll always end up going to a different place and a different outpost on a different moon each time. It will never, it's not likely to be the same one over and over again. So it's not like what we see currently in the persistent universe where you just get bored quite quick of the same missions. Again, though, if you're a criminal, you would maybe be delivering illicit goods instead of legal goods. And it's the same principle. It will be modular and it will be doing that. But also, if you're delivering goods, an outlaw player may be given a mission to intercept you. And an example of this is, they say, if there's a wreckage in space, you take on a mission to go and collect the black box and see if there's anyone alive there. But there may be a criminal or a criminal player who will get a mission to try and stop you obtaining the black box. Basically, someone will be sent to help, while others may be sent to hinder. So that's pretty cool, and that will bringing players together as well, because obviously the world is going to be vast, and they don't want it just to be constant PvE. They want you to actually have interactions with real people. But anyway, there was a question about how will players get paid who are helping me. Now, unfortunately, this isn't going to be in 3.0, but you will get a service beacon eventually, which will allow you to create your own missions and hire real people to maybe bring in some extra help for what you need to do. This is technically going to be like a legally binding contract. You will set how much you will pay, and the money will auto-transfer after the mission parameters have been met. When it comes to logging off, you'll be able to log off in your bed anywhere you want. So if you're on a planet, you can log off there, and then when you log back in again, you will spawn back on the same planet. Now, if you log out of a ship without a bed, there is some debate internally with this between the developers. Some of them feel like beds need to be important, but they're still trying to decide whether those without beds should need to make it back to a location with a bed and to log off, or otherwise, just log off wherever you like. I would like to hear what your thoughts are. I would personally like it to be a bed being necessary, so when you do go out into space, if you go out without a bed, then you may need to think, I need to get back somewhere quick. But obviously, if you accidentally log off or whatever, you could have spent all that time traveling and then you have to start again. They did say that 3.0 should just allow people to log off regardless of whether there's a bed there or not. It's still in work in progress, so we'll have to wait and see what they decide, but I'm sure our influence will help there. There will not be other cargo sizes in 3.0. We've seen the small box That is just the first pass, and it's only going to be these small stackable boxes. Later on, we will get irregular shaped items and irregular shaped boxes that you'll be able to stack and place, but they won't stack as naturally as just a simple straight-sided box. They're currently experimenting with whether the day or night cycles will make it into 3.0, which I'm really hoping that they will. They want to get it in there, but they can't make any promises. And again, the same goes for moons orbiting in 3.0. They really want to get it going. They've got a sort of test bed going for this, but it's not 100% sure whether it'll make it, which would be a real shame, but, you know, let's just get it sorted first. Anyway, that was Happy Hour. Let's move on. So, something recently announced is the next concept sale, which is to be the Cyclone. And this is a buggy. It's set to go on sale on Friday the 21st of July with 5 options ranging in price from $45 to $70. Now, what we do know is it is a buggy, and the clue that they gave us was tumbril. Now, tumbril is an open cart that was tilted backwards to empty its load. In particular, one used to convey condemned prisoners to the guillotine. So this kind of asks a lot of questions. You know, I don't want to go too far into speculating, but my theory is that it's likely to be a ground cargo buggy, so a ground cargo carrier. And it makes a lot of sense with 3.0 being the first implementation of the cargo interaction system and derelicts, using this to load up cargo from a derelict and take that to your ship, or as Chris Roberts has said, one of the missions is loading up a ground vehicle with the cargo to drive to the location like an outpost that you can't fly to. This makes most logical sense because all the assets are there in 3.0 already. The other options could be something like an APC-style vehicle to transport troops planet-side safely, maybe for Squadron 42, or it could be some sort of law enforcement vehicle for the ground, but we are way off the criminality system and, you know, developing it that far anyway. So I would love to hear what your thoughts are. I personally think it will be more of a cargo vehicle, like a flatbed-style vehicle. I may pick a couple of them up for a giveaway, maybe do one on here on YouTube and then one on Twitch, so be sure to head over there and follow me there too. So also this week in Citizens of the Stars, we meet Austin Player Relations, Benjamin McMoney's, and community guest Algard. The latest discovered post takes a look at the initial exploration mistakes of the Hades system, and finally Mark Bent sorts out a cargo interaction bug. So that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and thank you to our subscribers, plus a massive thank you to our patrons as you make this possible. If you like what we do and want to help us make it better, follow the link in the description to our Patreon page to learn more.